أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أحمده سبحانه وتعالى على صراعي وضرعي وشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. My brothers and sisters in Islam, my fellow citizens, my fellow brothers and sisters from our father Adam, alayhi salam. I would like to embark on this issue of our destiny. And our destiny is dealing with the plight of mankind, our plight. And our plight has been defined by Allah, and it has been defined from the earliest scriptures. As a Muslim, I believe in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Kitab Allah, the Kalamullah, the word of Allah, the Wahi that came down, the revelation that came down to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I believe in all the prophets and messengers of Allah from the time of Adam, from Noah, from Abraham or Ibrahim alayhi salatu salam, from Moses, all the way up to Isa alayhi salatu salam. And I believe in the plight of how all the scriptures describe opposition based on the beginning. And the beginning deals with the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam. And in that instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala state that He informed the angels that He would create a Khalifatul Ard, a viceroy or vicegerent or a governor or a representative of Allah on earth. And the angels, quite natural, we know the story. The angels questioned from the book of Allah, from the Quran. But in the instance, there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, after creating, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He reminded the angels, وَإِذَا قُلْنَا لِمَلَائِكَةِ جُدُوا Adama. And meaning, and remember when Allah, Bismillah, I remember when we said to the angels, prostrate yourself to Adam. Now the word is sujood. Sujood means to prostrate, meaning to bow, go all the way down to the floor, your head to the ground, and so forth. But this form and this statement is not in the form of worship or praise. It's a form of, according to the scholars, that Allah commanded the angels to cooperate, like nature cooperates with man. When the farmer plants a seed, pours the water, and he waits, it cooperates. It brings forth fruit, trees and vegetables or what have you. That's nature cooperating with man. Allah commanded angels and nature to cooperate with man. The instance in this regard is that after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created man, and after He commanded the angels to bow down, He placed man in a special abode. And that abode is what we call Jannah, paradise. And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told the angels, when He says, when He told the angels about mankind, and He created mankind, and He placed us in the highest abode, the Jannah. You can't get any higher than that. The Jannah. And when He says, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, وَقُلْنَا يَا آدَمُ اسْكُنْ أَنْتَ وَزَوْجُكَ جَنَّةً. He says here, and we said to Adam, dwell you and your wife in Jannah, paradise. And then He says, وَقُولَ مِنْهَا رَغَدًا حيث شئتما ولا تقربا هذه شجرة فتكونا من الظالمين. And He says, and eat both you freely with pleasure and delight of the things therein wherein you so will, wherever you so will. But come not near the tree, or both of you will be of the Zalimun. Now, the reference here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling our parents that they will enjoy all the delights of the Jannah. Everything that it has to offer. And we know the pleasures of the Jannah because we've been given a certain amount of descriptions on what the Jannah is going to be like. The delights of the Naim of the Jannah, the delights of the Jannah. And everything. Now, the Jannah is vast. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just telling our parents, don't go near this particular object, this tree, this one object. You have everything your heart desires. Everything. You have all the space that you can so imagine. But just don't go near this particular object. So, how is it that our parents replace all of the delights and the pleasures and all that the Jannah has to offer for this particular object? Well, we go back to the fact that we as mankind have a formidable foe, a devout enemy, in the form of Shaitaan, Iblis. And how did that come about? We understand Allah commanded the angels to bow down, and all of them bow down except Iblis. He was one of the jinns, although he was among the angels. So in this instance, the encounter, and Allah gives us a glimpse in the scriptures, in the Quran, about the type of encounter that Iblis and Allah had in respect to this disobedience to him. And here, the encounter was in the form of, first, Allah questioned Iblis. Now, we're talking about an awesome creator, a magnificent creator that has no allegiance to anybody. He's not obliged to anyone. He's not accountable to anyone. But he gave Iblis this opportunity, and he questioned, why is it? He questioned him, why is it that he doesn't find himself obeying Allah, bowing down? So Iblis engages him, well, I'm better than what you created. And that engagement goes on. So here, his faith is being sealed because his arrogance is getting the best of him and is blinding him to the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him, no matter what. If Allah commanded us as human beings to bow down to a rock, and a rock has no soul, has no intelligence, it's just a piece of material, a mineral, it's a rock. But the very fact that Allah told us to bow down to it, we don't go question Allah and say, well, Allah, I'm better than what you're telling me to bow down to. That is not the point. If you don't bow down, then you're saying you're better than the command of Allah. You're above the command of Allah. And that's what Iblis finds himself confronting at this moment. He finds the circumstances is that he doesn't realize it because his arrogance blinds him. He finds himself disobeying Allah. He finds himself taking a position that he is above the command of Allah. He is better than the command of Allah. And in that instance, he's really expressing that he's better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In his ignorance, he doesn't realize it until he finds his faith becomes a situation as a result of his actions, and his faith becomes sealed and cursed. So in that instance, after being adjudged the error, Iblis vows that he is going to become an enemy of Allah and mankind and what he has created. So he says he's going to lead all of Allah's creation astray. Now, in his arrogance, when you read the Quran and you continue to read in other verses and chapters, you'll read, in the first instance, Iblis says, I'm going to lead them astray. He makes a definite statement, a statement of a surety that he's going to do this. But in that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala admonishes him. And Allah responds and says, Ila ibadillah mukhlisin, except for my sincere servant, mukhlis, except for my sincere servant, and that sincere servant you will have no authority over. So Iblis understood, and then when we go down the line in other verses, you'll read that when he makes that same statement, he says, Bi-ithnillah, only by the permission of Allah I will do that. So he realized that, and you got to understand, Shaitaan knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He just rejects him. But he knows Allah. But he wants you He wants you to be in the same position he's in of disobeying. Iblis was not always Shaitan. He was not always what they call Satan in English. He was Shaitan. He was not Shaitan. Shaitan, he became Shaitan when he separated himself from Allah through disobedience. And that's what Shaitan indicates. And that's what it means in terms of the scholars. It means a separation, a rebelliousness. He rebelled and he became separated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of that relationship. And that's what happens. So he wants us to be in the same situation. He wants us to be under the same circumstances where he's trying to cause us to be separated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unfavorable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's his whole plight in terms of his experience, not just his experience, but his relationship with us. So it becomes a devout enemy. So in that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places Adam and his mate in the garden, as I have stated. And then in the garden, again, he says, he places them in the garden, and he says, eat of all of what you desire in the garden. All the delights of the gardens, you have access to it. But don't go near this object, this tree. Now, Adam, according to what we understand from the scriptures and the scholars and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, had no inclination, meaning he was not inclined to sin. He had no inclination, nothing inside, no desire to sin. And all he knew was disobedience. But as like a baby, he doesn't know anything about the nature of Shaitan, except that what he has been told. He's been warned. We warn our babies. We warn our children. Don't do this. Don't do that. And when they first come in this world, you warn a baby, say, don't touch the stove because it's hot. What do baby know about hot? The first thing, but you know about hot. And you're trying to avoid any circumstances in which a child can fall into, and that it will be detrimental to them. So you told them, don't go near this oven. It's hot. So they don't know. They hear hot. They understand the nature of you telling them not to do something, but their desires and their curiosity overtakes them. And that's what happens to us today. So they go and they touch the oven. Now they know what hot is. So with Adam, he doesn't know disobedience, but he finds out what it means to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when you read the scriptures of the Quran and you really delve into how the Quran is setting up this pace, it states that he disobeyed Allah, but not outwardly. When it states that the Shaitan tells him, oh, eat of the tree. Allah doesn't want you to eat of the tree. Eat of the tree. Adam didn't outwardly disobey based on that particular seduction or that particular persuasion. He wasn't coerced from the beginning. So Iblis already knew that on the outward. It's like we witness sin and we witness the outward of sin, but we don't indulge in it. We try to resist it as much as we can. But what happens is Shaitan makes sin attractive. He makes it fear-seeming. And in making it fear-seeming, he dresses it up. And I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into an analysis that I always try to use, to sort of illustrate what that means. So, Iblis didn't stop there. He tells our parents that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want you to eat of this tree because he doesn't want you to become immortal or like him. So that becomes curious to our Father. The curiosity overtakes him in that sense. Oh, Allah, he forgets the trust of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He forgets his obligation, his responsibility is pure obedience. Never mind what the tree has to offer. It's not even about that. Even if that was the case, which it wasn't, but whatever the case is, Allah told me not to go near it. So I get no benefit, even if you feel there's benefit. And this is our life, brothers and sisters. Our life is that we think that there's benefit. There's benefit in worldly things. Some things that we're prohibited from partaking in or engaging in. We got this idea that these worldly things that were prohibited has some benefit in it. And in some instance, Allah says that there is some level of benefit in it, but the evil outweighs the benefit. So in that, Iblis dresses it up. And then the curiosity overcomes our father and our mother. Now, the only way you can follow Iblis, or when you follow Iblis, the only way he can get you to follow him is that you got to take on his nature. You take on the character. You got to remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he created us, Inna Allah khaliqul bil haq. Allah created us in truth, and khair and hasan and goodness. Allah didn't create us with he didn't create us with evil. Evil has to be introduced to us. We have to accept evil into our lives. We are created in goodness and righteousness. This is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created mankind. We are given a law-given spirit within us, a life-given spirit. We have good inside us. Evil has to be induced, and Shaitaan knows this, and that's why Shaitaan, in his deception and his deceit, he has the power. Allah only gave him the ability to whisper and to lure and to deceive. He doesn't have a gun to our head. Shaitaan cannot harm us. And Shaitaan cannot harm us. But what he persuades us to do and coerces us to do is detrimental to us. It's harmful. So it's the things that we put credence to that causes us harm. Shaitaan can only lure us. So in that instance, he lures our father and our mother. And he dresses in their curiosity and the desire. Now, the guise of disobedience, the nature of Shaitaan, overtakes our parents. And then they forget the obligation. And they forget the obligation and the responsibility that they have to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they eat of the tree. And then they become remorseful because now the effects of disobedience starts to overtake them. And where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then they saw themselves and they found themselves to be naked, and they realized the shame. And shame came over them. So they understood that. But the thing is that our life is made up of these kind of situations. One, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us dominion over the earth. And he says to partake in tayyiba, the good things, all the beneficial things that exist on earth, to partake in. But don't go near this. Don't go near that. The prohibitions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the same thing our father was told, and mother, don't go near this tree. This symbolizes what we're not supposed to go near, to cause us to be, because our parents in that instance, although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them and he pardoned their sin, but the effect of the sin still exists. The result of the sin still exists. So they had to pay a price for it. And that's our life as well. Sometimes we ask forgiveness for a sin we committed, but we can't get away from the results of it. And that's why I always say, when you ask Allah for forgiveness for your sins, you ask for forgiveness, you ask for mercy, and first and foremost, ask for him to pardon you. The forgiveness is one thing. Yes, Allah can forgive us, but I committed the sin. And in some instance, sometimes Allah will avoid any consequences of the sin for us, or we have to reap the consequences, and then we're forgiven, but we won't be made accountable, and we won't be held accountable for that sin. But we experience it. We did something. We have to experience it sometimes. So you ask for mercy so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can lighten the burden of the sin, and you ask to pardon so Allah can remove the consequences of the sin. And then you ask for forgiveness and mercy for your sins, your faults, and your mistakes, and your shortcomings. Now, in mistakes, is something that you involuntarily did. You made a mistake, you had no idea, or you did it in ignorance. You didn't mean to do it, but you did it anyway. But you can still pay for a mistake. It's a mistake that I knock a glass over, but the glass breaks. Even though it was a mistake that I knocked it over, I had no intentions of knocking it over, it still was knocked over, and the circumstances of it falling on the floor resulted breaking in pieces. So I broke the glass. I lose that property. So I didn't really mean to do it. And your fault's the same thing. It's involuntary. It's a fault that you had no control over at some point because of your weakness, and we all created in weakness. You committed an act that is a sin by its nature, but it's not charged to you as a sin because it's a fault that you have, right? But sometimes you got to reap that consequences of that fault. And the same goes with shortcomings. So the same instance. So you ask Allah not only to have mercy, forgiveness, but to pardon. Perchance you won't reap the consequences of those particular weaknesses and things and vices that we partake in as human beings. So going back to Adam, in that sense, so you can see that from that, the consequences, even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he had forgive and he had pardoned Adam and they would not be charged for sin. So we don't, and the Quran and the Sunnah and the scholars says that we don't say that Adam sinned. We say that he disobeyed Allah, he committed a sin, but he's not charged with the sin. He's not charged with the sin because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he had no intentions. He was not inclined towards committing it. But he had to pay the price for the sin. And he was ejected. And that's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after saying he was after committing the sin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states here that he had ejected Adam from the sin in that sense. And when he says it, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this instance that they are to get out, to get down from here, right? To get down from here because they have been told that the disobedience of Allah is something that we should be cautious of in that sense, and that we can reap the consequences of that sin. So here, once it's understood that they were evicted from that situation, and here when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says because, so why? Because فَأَزَّلَهُمَا شَيْطَانُ أَنْهَا, then the Shaitan made them slip therefrom. And when it says that, either refers to paradise, in this case it means Shaitan and Adam and Hawa away from it, meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them lose the privilege that he's given them. And when he says فَأَخْرَجَهُمَا مِمَّا كَانَ فِيهِ, and got them out from that in which they were. And now the tafsir says that the clothes, the spacious dwelling, and comfortable substance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَقُلْنَا بِنْتَا بَعْدُكُمْ لِبَعْدِ عَدُوٌّ وَلَكُمْ فِي أَرْضِ مُسْتَقَارَةٌ وَمَتَاعٌ إِلَىٰ. We said, this is Allah says, we said, get you down all with enmity, hatred between yourselves. On earth will be a dwelling place for you and an enjoyment for a time. And that means the dwelling, substance, and limited life until the commencement of the day of resurrection. So when you look at the situation here, we were on earth. Here we were evicted from Jannah, from paradise, to earth. What does that mean? Earth, lowest form of existence. That's why it's considered dunya. Jannah, highest form of existence. That's why it's called Jannah. Now, people make their homes here. And that's why the Quran and the Sunnah and the traditions of the Prophet ﷺ is saying that a believer is just a traveler here. He doesn't make his home here. We have a situation where people are digging in on this earth and they're neglecting, and this is Muslims and non-Muslims particularly. And this is why we're always reminded that we're travelers. And we should be packing our bags, packing our bags in terms of we're always moving. We're trying to reach that destination, and that we're trying to work our way back home, sisters and brothers. Our home is not here, so we don't make we don't make our living quarters here. This is a temporary abode. The hereafter is forever. Everything perishes here. Nothing lasts forever. Everything perishes. So why would I want to make a stake here in a place that is not the true reality? This is not a reality. You know, one scholar said that we're all asleep until we die and then we wake up. You know, because this is just like a dream here. This earth and so forth, now existence is like a dream. In a dream, sooner or later you wake up, and then you come in a dream is like a fantasy environment until you wake up, and now you're back on earth. So here, this is a fantasy on earth, and then we wake up, and then we in the hereafter. Now that it depends on how we see the situation. Now, in saying this, is that we can't make our home here, and people are trying to make paradise here on earth. They're trying to make paradise here on earth. And, you know, this is why the Messenger of Allah, he says, you know, Ad-dunya, what? Ad-dunya, Jannat al-Kafir. Ad-dunya sanajun mu'min. That this life, this world is a paradise for the disbelievers. And if you notice, they're trying to make it so easy that you want to stay here. You know, money, economics, technology, all this. People riding hoverboards. They don't even want to walk anymore. And they're making it too easy for them. You know, we don't even have to think anymore, sort things out. We don't have to use our intellect. We just go to the computers and the cell phones. We're addicted to these things. And then that's why the believer is a prisoner, because this is not the place. The life of this world is just an abode for us to live, you know, to worship Allah, to enjoy certain levels of the existence here, and then we want to get back home. Why would one want to make his home where it was made a punishment for man? He was evicted from the garden, and then he was placed here on this earth. Why would you want to live in the lowest point of existence where it became an eviction? You know, just like you being evicted from your home, now you're in the street. You're in the street. You satisfied with being in the street and being homeless? So why would we want to make a home here? So we got to work our way back. And working our way back. So it's just like the Shaitaan is going to make evil fair seeming to you so that you can accept it. And I say it in the form that Shaitaan is made. When he told our parents not to eat of this tree, of course, he said it outright, but he dressed it up. So evil, I give an analysis of evil is like, you know, the acceptability in its position of accepting it and taking it in. It's like if you give a child liquor to drink, it's going to spit it out. Sometimes even people drink for the first time, they regurgitate, they spit it because the body is rejecting. It's poison. It's destructive to the body. So drink. So in order for you to drink it, the Shaitaan, he dresses up, put some juice and good juice and tasting juice and covered the taste of it. And now it's acceptable to the body. You can drink it, but the contents still exist. The poison still exists, and the destruction. So you keep drinking, and next thing you're destroying your liver and your inside. That's what evil is. That's what how Shaitaan makes evil acceptable and fasting. He dresses it up. He doesn't give it to you outright. You won't do things, but you know, like you won't disobey Allah outright. But if it's dressed up to seem fair seeming, to seem like it's acceptable, then you would disobey Allah. People they don't commit zina, this and outright, but Shaitan lures you. That's why Allah says, avoid zina. Don't go near it. Don't put yourself in a situation. Don't put yourself in a situation where you commit sin. Be around people who are righteous people, so that you may be righteous. Choose, as the Prophet ﷺ says, choose your friends cautiously. Choose your friends and be sensitive. So, my brothers and sisters, I just wanted to give you that indication. Don't make your home here. Your home is in the Jannah, if you so choose. This is the lowest. The dunya means lowest point of existence. This is the dunya. Now, if you don't make it back by doing the things, and that means to submit to the command of Allah in the form of Quran, from the prophets, so forth, that means that you reject it and you do the things that are detrimental to you. You will leave that lowest position and go to the lowest position, and that lowest point of existence is the hellfire. So may Allah protect us from such, and may He lead us to the point, and may He lead us to the point of righteousness that will cause us to go to the Jannah. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله ولكم أستغفر الله ربي من كل ذنبي وأتوب إليه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.